full-size trucks and Jeeps and go-karts, and I might even build a wheelbarrow someday. You want a Wraith with smaller wheels and axles? We made you one. Here you go. Welcome back to Black and Blue Garage, where I try to build really cool stuff in the most unorthodox way possible with as little AI influence as I can. Today I kind of want to talk a little bit about something that has been on my mind for the past couple of weeks, because a couple of videos ago I did a demonstration using one of my RC trucks to show how a rear suck down winch works, at least in my mind. That video got more views than any of my videos in the entire history of this show. And not only that, it's been up for 2 weeks and it's my third highest viewed video. Another thing about that video, when I look into the data, I had a lot of viewers viewing the RC truck portion of that video, and then when it moves on to show how that's going to work on my full-size 1-to-1 rig, the viewers kind of dropped off, because a lot of the newer viewers were there to see the RC truck. And yeah, in the thumbnail I was kind of holding the RC truck and the Jeep Comanche was in the background, and it had, rear suck down winch or whatever written across the thumbnail. And I think that the title was good and described the video pretty well. Within 6 days it got 2,000 views, which at least for me is a lot. And then it's at 2,700 views right now. So what does this mean for the future of Black and Blue Garage? I'm not changing the channel whatsoever, and I was always planning on using my RC truck hobby to demonstrate my methods and my designs on the full-size things that I build. That's always been a plan. So I'm not going to change my YouTube channel just because I got a lot of views on RC trucks. But in the past, I was kind of resistant to add the RC truck hobby and integrate that into the show, just because everybody kind of tells you that you should niche down and keep your YouTube channel just about one thing. I've kind of done that by only building a Jeep Comanche, and so I feel like a lot of you guys are fans of Jeep Comanche stuff. And I have another year of this show where I'm going to be building on the Comanche and finishing that up. But when that's done, aside from wheeling videos and going to shows and events with that truck, I'm going to start a whole new build, and it's probably going to be either a go-kart or an actual rock crawler or something else that has to do with off-road. I know whatever it's going to be weird. I'm probably not going to do it the right way, because I'm going to make it as different as possible and still get the same results as everyone else. Either I'm going to learn a very hard lesson because I'm doing something wrong, or I'm going to prove to myself and the rest of the world that it's going to work. I think that there is no such thing as innovation where you are building something the exact same way that everyone else has built things. In my personal opinion, I feel like most of the off-road rock crawler builds, or any build for that matter, the more fueled by doubt that those trucks and cars are built, the more I enjoy it. Like, take for example the Matt's Offroad Recovery Bom-bee, which is, if you haven't, I'm sure you've seen that show, but it's basically this snowcat that they've rebuilt several times and able to get it to work, and they're getting really close to getting this thing to work in the sand and in the snow and just out there in the Utah desert. So many times they bring that thing out and it doesn't work, and even though a lot of people get upset and heartbroken that this thing just will not work and it breaks every time, the fact that it's built different, when this thing is done, it's going to be probably the best snowcat recovery vehicle that anyone's ever seen because it's conquered over the adversities. So anyways, the reason that I want to build things different and kind of like stir the pot a little bit and like get people on the edge of their seat and like, just what in the heck are you doing to that thing? Why are you building it that way? That is how this entire hobby has gone for me. Take, for example, my favorite of all time RC truck has to be this one. This is actually a couple different products from a company called Axial. They build RC rock crawler trucks. If you clicked on this video because you saw this thumbnail, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So I want to take this into my dining room, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about why stuff like this is motivation for my full-size builds as I build them. I know you can't see my face right now, but you don't need to look at my face anyway. I need you to look at this truck right here. So I'll put some pictures up so that you can see exactly a little bit more in depth of what I'm talking about here. But so Axial came out with several years ago this UMG 10. It's a Mercedes-Benz Unimog, and it was put onto the SCX 10-2 chassis, which had solid axles. I always liked the Unimogs. My dad and I have always been fascinated with them. But Unimogs in real life, if you know, have portaled axles. Now, Vanquish Products had portal axles at the time, I believe, but they were pretty much the only company that was making portals. And so when Axial made this, they just made it with straight axles, and everybody was happy. Here's where the huge upset was, because, and I love Axial to death, they're my favorite RC company, but I think they kind of released the UMG a little too early, because while they were in production with this, they were designing portal axles, and I believe they were supposed to be for this, but they couldn't get them finished in time, because a couple of years later they released their SCX 10-3, which had portal axles, but they put it on a JLU 4-door Jeep body. Everybody loved this truck, and I'm sure it was important to me and very few other people that they had released a 4-door Wrangler with portal axles right after releasing a UMG 10 Unimog with straight axles. It just, to me, like, I don't know, maybe it's just the way my brain works, it just rubbed me the wrong way. No offense, I love you, Axial. So I saved up my money and I bought a UMG and I bought an SCX 10-3 JLU Jeep. And I took both kits, because I bought them both in kit form, and I put them together. On the SCX 10-3 chassis, it has the frame rails right here that go from end to end, one piece on either side. On the SCX 10-3 has two pieces so that you can change the wheelbase if you wanted to. And I think that was a little foreshadowing on Axial's part, because they knew that people were going to shorten the wheelbases and make them longer for different bodies, because that's just what you do in this hobby. So what I did was I took an SCX 10-3 frame rails and I cut them in half and I slid them into the front SCX 10-3 frame rails, and I put this whole thing together. I was able to make it work with portal axles. Then I bought a metal bumper and I put that on. I had to modify it just a little bit to get it to fit on this particular chassis, which is kind of like a one-off custom thing. I put magnets on the front here so that it would connect to the metal bumper. And then I just used the hinge system from the SCX 10-2 frame. So from here back is SCX 10-2, and from here forward is an SCX-10-3. I was able to keep my 2-speed transmission, my selectable dig, which I made my own little shifter because I didn't like their servo type stuff. And then I get all the features up here of having SCX-10-3 stuff with the portal axles in the front. Did an axle swap for portal axles in the rear. And I really need to fix this shock hoop and go drive this thing. But that allowed me to have what everybody wanted in the first place, a SCX-10-2 Unimog with portal axles. So here's what's great about Axial is they actually listen to their customers and pay attention to what they're doing with their RC trucks. One example is there was one of the earlier models was an Axial Wraith, and that was a 2.2 scale giant tires, kind of like a rock buggy, rock bouncer type truck. What a lot of people did was they took the axles and tires off of that truck and they put it on the SCX-10-2 to make the Rancho. And we were doing that and making our own links and bending them up to make those work before there was ever a Rancho kit. There was people that also took the 1.9 scale RC truck axles, the SCX-10-2 axles, and they put them on the Wraith 1.9, and it actually looked really good. Years down the road, I think it was probably like 3 or 4, maybe even 6 years later, Axial actually came out with a Wraith 1.9, which was exactly what everybody had did. And they took other modifications that people were doing to the Wraith, and they integrated that into this RTR RC truck that you could buy. It was really reassuring because there's companies out there, whether they're RC truck companies or if it's Barnes 4-wheel drive or Rough Stuff Specialties and other companies out there that will actually pay attention to what people are doing to their trucks at home in their garage and their shops. And they will make little changes to their product or service that will basically just give you what you want. Like, so maybe in the future you'll see a re-release of the Unimog UMG 10, and maybe they'll call it what I've named this, the Axial UMG 10-3, because that's really what everyone would want to see, Unimog with portals on it. If there is another RC truck that you see on here that you'd like me to do a little bit of review on, let you in a little bit of my unorthodox, messed up mind, let me know. I'm also planning on building a scale version of the Jeep Comanche, so if that's something you'd like to see on this channel as well, let me know. I'm going to try to get the roll cage and everything to look exactly like the Comanche as much as possible. So I even did some measuring to find out that this isn't actually true 10th scale, and these wheels aren't to scale 37 inches, but when you scale these wheels to the Jeep Comanche, they actually are based on the true scale of the Jeep body that I have. So I know it doesn't really matter as far as like scale and sizing goes because it's just a toy truck, but it matters to me and it'll look better. But anyways, speaking of the Jeep Comanche, let me show you something outside, because building full-scale rigs is kind of like the end goal for building RC trucks anyway. RC trucks are cool and fun and way less expensive than building this kind of stuff, but this is still my main focus. So getting into a little bit of my plan for my next video, I have ordered a Winters shifter for my 4L60E that's going in this truck, and I've ordered a JB Customs shifter for my 241 transfer case. I know I probably could have kept a Jeep Comanche transmission and transfer case in this, but like, to be loyal to Jeep in the 80s is kind of like almost useless because they had Chevy columns. Let me show you something right here. This is the original key. This is the original key. And if you can tell right there, 4 GM cars. Jeep had a lot of success with their XJ station wagon. And they sold a whole bunch of them, but sales were starting to slow down. And so, as history goes, and able to ramp up sales again, they started on the Jeep Comanche. And originally it was long bed, and then they made a short bed because everybody loved them. And it kind of like took the Jeep XJ and like re-sprouted life into the Jeep legacy. All that to say that when Jeep was building things in the 70s and the 80s, all the car manufacturing companies were borrowing parts from each other. And one of those things was the Jeep steering column. Aside from Ford's rear axle, I'm pretty sure that there was only 1 or 2 companies that were making axles for production cars. So Dana and Sterling, and maybe there was 1 or 2 other ones, but everybody got Dana axles. Everybody got new process transfer cases, unless you had like Dana 300. So there's Dana again, and people were getting steering gearboxes and steering columns and transmissions and transfer cases and a slew of other parts borrowed from different companies to put into what these trucks were originally. So for me to take all my favorite parts from all my favorite trucks that I've either owned or followed is kind of like in line with what all the 80s car companies were doing back then. I just can't get over how cool all this looks. I'm sorry. I could stand here and look at this forever. But at this point, this thing is more Chevy and Ford than it is a Jeep anyway. The only thing that makes it a Jeep is the body style. And so you call it a Jeep Comanche because it's Jeep Comanche based. But, I mean, at the end of the day, the trucks that are actually being built to a point where it'll go and follow all the buggies, and not that this will, but you can't really call them Jeeps anymore anyway. And to add to all of this confusing information that I'm dumping on you, I'm building this just like it's a giant RC truck. The only difference is I'll be sitting in the cab when I'm driving it. So I guess that means that, sure, I'm going to integrate some RC truck stuff into my videos. If you're a longtime viewer and you just want to see me get this truck done, I apologize, but I'm still gonna build this just about every episode. But there's gonna be some videos where, you know, I'm insulating a wall or putting up shelving and, you know, finishing up with the AC in here and all kinds of different stuff. So if you're a new viewer and you're here because you saw a video with an RC truck a couple of weeks ago, expect more of that. But please know that my main focus is going to be building full-size trucks and Jeeps and go-karts. And, you know, I might even build a wheelbarrow someday, you know. I'm thinking about using this as panels for my center console to remind me not to send it. So hopefully next week I'm going to start building the center console for this so that I have something to bolt my shifters down to and control my transmission and transfer case. But until then, just remember, it's 100% not perfect, but I like it.